did it! Yay! This was a community and coven effort. Welcome, Earth Angels, to episode 46 of the Devotional Drip, where we are in phase 3 of the Creatrix Codes of Metamorphosis in our Higher Self Spring Awakening series, a new Earth Creatrix Higher Self Embodiment and Multidimensional Metamorphic Boot Camp that we've been doing the last couple of weeks here on Blood, Bone, and Honey. If you have missed the last couple of transmissions, you can catch the in the playlist titled The Devotional Drip. If you just go to my YouTube channel and you see the videos tab, these transmissions aren't going to be on there because we're recording all of them live, which is so cool. But you're going to need to go into the actual playlist to access, well, this is episode 46, so 45 other transmissions that we've been recording and co-creating together since September of 2021. And I've been planning out the drips for the spring season and thinking about some planning in the Blood, Bone, and Honey Pot membership. And it's just been so fun to like creep towards the 50th episode of the Devotional Drip. And I feel like, well, I have for the next couple of episodes. And as we continue to move deeper into the spring, quite a few fun things planned, including some like return of some original Blood, Bone, and Honey foundations, like the 7 pillars of higher self embodiment. We're going to do a whole series on that. I really wanted to start the code because I feel like it just gets us in a mind, body, heart set around alchemy and like our creatrix identity so that we can approach the methodology of the 7 pillars of higher self embodiment from that self concept and that higher self identity of like, I am the creator, I am the creatrix of my reality. So catch the last couple of videos in the Devotional Drip playlist for more on the Creatrix codes. In phase 1, we talked about recognizing our power and recognizing all of the material that's currently up for us on our journey right now, within, without, above, and below, as relevant, fertile, nutrient-dense material to be used in the alchemy, which is phase 2 of the Creatrix codes, the alchemy of whatever it is that we want to create in our lives. So it really lets us tap into this mindset, heart set, body set, spirit set of like, oh, this is all material on my paint palette. This is all stuff that, so if it's all here to serve me, then what kind of art do I want to make with this? From the there's this ferocity that the creatrix claims around, I am divine by design. And as a divine design, I'm here to co-create with my life. I'm here to not even just your life, like we are here to co-create with life, with spirit. So we've been fired up in that transmission, and y'all, every season really hit me in all the right places so far. May she continue to rain her blessings down. I feel like it was like the just shoot up energy that I really personally needed from the underworld. The winters up here in upstate New York can get real wintry. So it's been so powerful to even be in this Creatrix Codes transmission because, and I say this all the time to my clients who are also coaches and authors and speakers and leaders and teachers and practitioners of all kinds, like when we offer our transmission, whatever it is, our transmission could come through anything. It could come through, I was sharing my friend Sarah and her work earlier, and I really, oh, hi, Dad, and hi, Hannah. Oh my God, everyone's here. The whole crew is here. So I was talking about Sarah Rosie Donahue earlier and her adornment, really, really loves being in her beauty practice, in her adornment practice. And because she loves it, it comes through in the way that she offers her transmission. Same with my friend Hannah, incredible gut health coach, helped me heal so many dysbiosis conditions in my gut of dysbiosis. I have a lot of different autoimmune things that I had to tend to over the last decade. And same thing when Hannah offers her work, like you can just feel that she loves it. And it's this double blessing. Like I'm on the drip right now offering this. And I already, like I was tired before I hopped on here. And now I'm just feeling so fed by showing up in service. And I think that's like, That's the great get to. And it's so simple, but I think it's also so profound to remember that. Um, as leaders, as creators, as creatives, that when we offer, like it's a double blessing if we let ourselves receive it. And then to really like tune into the way that when we let our light shine, like who are we to say in our egos that it's not touching enough people, or it's not big enough, or it's not impactful enough? Like that's so much patriarchal programming, I feel like, that comes up around leadership, especially leaders who are navigating new edges of consciousness, like bringing us into new arenas of new ways of thinking and processing and relating to ourselves and relating to our journey. Like that's vulnerable work. And that's what so many coven members of the Blood, Bone, and Honey pot membership, and also just the Blood, Bone, and Honey space in general, are up to. Like that's what we're up to here in this community. We're making waves. So we deserve to be empowered in the process of our transformation, in our shadow work, in our healing, and our self-care gets to be art, and our spiritual practice gets to be sparkly, and we get to break all the rules. In fact, we get to rewrite the terms and agreements, because all of these astrological movements right now are actually deconstructing like rule-based culture. There's an absolute disintegration of like any system that would hold itself up based on shame, or I'm getting like using people's energy in an inappropriate way to keep itself running. Like there's like a prostituting and a siphoning of our energy that's up right now on the planet. And we say this all the time on Rip, like our currency is our consciousness, or our consciousness, excuse me, is our currency. Like where we give our time, our space, our attention, what we decide to allow into our field, and then what we just say as creators, as creatrixes, as expressions of source, to navigate this moment on planet Earth artistically, spiritually, inspired, with all of the conviction of what it means to like lead on the front lines of consciousness. Like if you're healing literally anything right now, that's such a big deal. Healing takes so much energy. It is something that we are not paid for. In fact, it is something oftentimes that we are paying for. And it requires so much of our brain space, heart space, devotion, consciousness as our currency, willingness to plug in to the new information that's always available in the field versus the stories of the subconscious mind and the tape that we just been playing and running. Here's what the Libra pink moon, do you see the pink in the background? Hello. Here's what the Venusian expansive rebalancing Libra full moon has to say. Well, as I channel, let me also pull a card to set the tone, because we love a divination tool and it's very Venusian to just swing on in like this. So as she beams into our space, there's and I've been feeling this all day as I've been in meetings and like planning for this next season, and consulting with people, and coaching also like in own launch calendar and projects. Something that's been so alive is this need to be like fiercely present, and to not like to really meet the programming, that's so deep inside of us of urgency, that's been embedded by the old systems that are now crumbling. And there may be some bridge energy, and there may be some exiting and entering and moving between worlds at this time, right? We're in a deeply transitional time. But inside of that, you get to decide how you be and meet what's showing up right in front of you, as the first thing to tend to. And there's going to be, and this has been coming through so much on the drip, there's going to be this impulse to follow your intuition before all the logical pieces have kind of fallen into place. There's this radical redirection to be deeply present, deeply anchored, so that from this place of presence, we can actually flow in alignment with divine timing. There's a whole new rhythm. Have you noticed? Hi, Wes. Have you noticed the whole new rhythm about? Like, it's been a series of a couple of years of a rhythm shift, but now there's a whole new song. There's a whole new song. The Libra full moon tonight, well, technically tomorrow, 12:35 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, something like that. So this portal of this Libra energy wants to come in and support you in rebalancing and like harmonizing your life. Like, where could you use a little more harmony? I just sat in a meditation with my dear friend and astrologer, Megan Rising, before hopping on the drip. And she had us name one thing that we were deeply grateful for in our meditation and just focus on that one thing. And what came forward for me so clearly and deeply was my relationships, my friendships, like the wealth of relationship in my life, and like what a symbol of wealth that is. And I think as there's big consciousness shifting happening, I think there's also this like rebalancing in terms of the way that we perceive wealth and digest wealth and process wealth as not just, this number or this ability to acquire certain things or maintain a lifestyle. Not that those things aren't important, it's just not the only way that in this new paradigm we're going to be defining wealth. I mean, it's already happening. And I would love to know any thoughts, feeling, experiences having around this. Like, where is there a divine rebalancing in your life right now? We're going to talk about the process of emerging tonight as phase 3 of the Creatrix Codes of Metamorphosis. I was just sharing for those of you just hopping on Instagram that we've been in this series in the Blood, Bone, and Honey Pot, and also on the Devotional Drip, around really exploring like, what does it mean to operate from a consciousness of like, I am the creatrix of my life? What is the creatrix archetype, creator archetype, if that resonates for you better? What is that archetype that's alive within us as an expression of our higher self? How does it want to help us through this moment, through this season? How can we use this ancient practice of working with archetypes to inspire us beyond what maybe like I'm getting like, and this is probably because I'm in deep brain study right now, the different parts of the brain that are maybe traumatized or stuck in certain loops, it would maybe be hard for them to transcend otherwise. And this is where I think we're going to see so much of this. And I see the most magical people I've ever known. Marissa in the comments here. Hello, Marissa. And she knows this. Like, magic, it to also tend to your mental, physical, emotional health, well-being to any other way. It is the ancestry of every lineage of medicine. And it is our divine right to get a little more magical with it in our thinking, in our actions, in the way that we approach some of the historically hard, tender shit in our lives. And to see where I'm getting like to see where in our magic there's like a little too much trying to like tell the magic what it is or what it needs to be or what it can do for you. And I think that is like a divine redirecting that we're all receiving as children of source right now, in terms of like how we can relate to magic that's different than everything that's not only been fed or not fed, but also directly and intentionally suppressed. Because magic is a threat to every of power and oppression. And I don't know, I'm just willing to push it on YouTube these days because I'm just curious to see what's going to happen. Like, If you were to Google, well, do I want to say this, Spirit? Should I say this? This is where I got to check in for Aries. All I'm going to say is that in some of, and I'm going to be very careful with my language, but in some of the most powerfully resourced institutions on the planet, they're using practices like transcendental meditation and higher self embodiment. So for anyone in a position of power or whatever the fuck to gaslight you and say that magic isn't real and oh, don't waste your time on that, and you need to just go see a regular therapist, that magical shit is not going to help your mental health, I beg to differ. And so do the ancestors, and so do thousands of years of record keepers. There's a reclamation right now of taking our health and our wellness into our own hands. I say that fully acknowledging that the system is set up to not make that happen, especially for specific groups of people that have been historically oppressed. So we got a lot of work to do, is the point. And I think what this Libra moon, and in my personal practice recently, and what I've just been receiving for this cohort of high priestesses that I'm getting to work with this spring, and magical beings. Like, my client roster right now is just like dragons, baby. And what's been coming through is like just being so radical in our and revolutionary in our approach to our self-care practice, to our healing, to our art, to our magic, to our transmissions. For folks who show up online and market, for how we approach that business marketing cycle situation that can get really globby, how we can return to being and living from the archetypes of the creatrix, of the priestess, of the temple keeper, of the healer, of the healing artist, which has felt like a really yummy term for a lot of folks I've been working with recently. Because we are remembering ourselves as this. We are remembering ourselves as abundant, like by birthright. And I think that gap between our our true nature and the parts of our mind, body, psyche, soma, spirit, soul that are catching up with that, like that bridge is all the deliciousness. And I'm not saying delicious like it's going to taste so good. I do think we can always surrender to more of the sweetness, but delicious, like you put that bitter herb on your tongue, and like the moment that taste hits your tongue, the bitter taste also does something in the brain and then immediately adjusts something in the energy body as well. Like there's a, I keep seeing this map of like the mind, body, psyche, soma, spirit, the layers of the koshic body, the remembering of the layers. And this is kind of a perfect setup, thank you, Spirit, for our conversation around emerging from the chrysalis, because that's a layered process. And if you're in this chrysalis, soupy, sloppy moment right now, go back to that alchemized transmission, and even go back like and check out our transmissions since January, because I feel like I've been divinely guided like leading up to this moment. And this is true for us as we open up to our gifts, right? Like the more we open up, the more like spirit, our higher selves really will actually come through and kind of create the map for me, or for us, or for if you're working with this in your practice. Like I will literally experience that in my practice. Like I will just be like, you need to make the map, spirit, higher self, because I don't know where all this is going. But I trust that there's and that's not true. I have mile markers and like deep Capricorn level devotions and gardens that I've set up, but just in this more esoteric, like flowing with divine timing and being present to moment way, like there's so much deconstructing right now that um if you're trying to grab onto something solid, you won't be able to. So this is the moment to make love to the chrysalis. This is the moment to like completely surrender timing, how things manifest to spirit, to your higher self. Like where just like we can usually have like a little bit of carbon dioxide left in the base of the pelvic floor on an exhale. where can you surrender just that little bit more that you haven't yet to spirit? Like where is your resistance to that surrender? Take that to episode 44 and 45 of the devotional drip. Work it through that transmission. If you're in the blood, bone, and honey pot, there's movement practices, meditations, and prompts for you there to help you work through this. Whatever this is for you, whatever the stuff is for you, whatever the chrysalis is for you, whatever you've been handed. Woof, my little pendant came off in that moment, literally. Whatever you've been handed from your ancestors, from your higher self, from your guides, because the old saying, so true and so grounding. God, Goddess, Source, the divine doesn't give us more than we can handle. And on the last episode of the drip, we talked about the goddess Akalanda, the goddess of never not broken, and that process of alchemy of, letting the divine reshape us from the inside out, letting that light penetrate deeper, knowing that what falls away and dissolves might kind of catch some shit on fire, and it might look like a bunch of shit on fire in the process of transformation. And it may not be the sanitized version of growth, transformation. Like for some reason, I'm like seeing like fake grass, like astroturf. Like it may not be, this packaged version of transformation and growth that some part was fed. I know there's a little 5-year-old within me who was watching Disney Channel, just like, getting all kinds of imprints. Not to say that it's bad or I'm not making a judgment. I'm just saying that there are imprints, and there are that are I'm seeing like I'm seeing like vomit come out, like things leave the body that are so obviously up right now. Like and I think that speaks to transformation. Like it's when it's so deep, when it's right there, you can do nothing but just vomit, just lean into it, just let it drip and drop. Like there's no intellectualizing or compartmentalizing it. I think sometimes, especially in that processing grief state and space, like there has to be an absolute dissolve. And I don't want to say too much about that because y'all know I can make these drips extra, read all about it, 3 hours long. So I'm going to point you to episode 45 for more on just like alchemy and like conviction and excitement around alchemy, like taking a big bite out of alchemy and getting hungry for it and re-inspired, even and especially if you're an alchemist. Because I know for myself, it's important to like hear other alchemists talk about alchemy when I'm feeling a little funky about my alchemy. And that's how we're meant to be in the circle together, right? That's how we're meant to function in our wisdom. So I'm just gonna pull up in that first little, I didn't even know if this link was gonna work. Here we are. I'm so glad. Happy full moon, y'all. If you were to drop like a word, an essence, an energy around your full moon and how it's resonating for you, what would you say? I started sharing earlier and then went off on another tangent around this Libra moon wanting to shine um, a very specific, I know it's a pink moon, but I've been seeing this rainbow diamond light coming through. And it feels like this full, like chakra system wash. It feels on the level of DNA upgrade. If you're in the blood, bone, and honey pot, there's a lot of fun little like rainbow light DNA chakra in your higher self meditation playlist that you could tap into for this moon. Actually, the last one for Alchemize that I recorded this past weekend before I even registered that this was a pink moon, we actually worked with the energy of like a soft pink glow. And we did, if I remember correctly, I'm in like such a channeled state when we do it, but we did like a future self manifestation integration. And it's beautiful and yummy and so good for a full moon because there's integration involved, but there's also a little bit of release and then a little bit of holding the bigness of the vision with this pink light that I have around. We call this kind of light in that meditative space. And something I'm really loving doing in the higher self meditations is really teaching some self-guided energy work, because why not? Why not know how to tend to our own multidimensional systems? Why not get a little more intel on how to meet this multi-galactic supercomputer that we are, that you are? Kate is saying fire, warmth, stoked, languishing, love. Yeah, I really resonate with those words, Kate. I feel like I was like even all up in our Blood, Bone, and Honey Pot membership practice playlist this morning, listening and just like getting a bunch of emails and contracts and things done and out. And I was just feeling that like, I was feeling that availability of like, God is light my fire, and the way that if you've been praying around your fire being lit, chances are this Aries season has you lit right now. If you want to get lit, good news. We have a full moon. It is in an air sign, Libra. We are in a fire season. Get lit. Like, what do you want to light up? What are you burning up? What are you cooking? What are you conjuring? Oh, thank you, Jack. You blow my mind. It's awesome. My Leo moon receives it deeply. Thank you, thank you. I'll let that spread into my wings. Yeah, there's this to just, as Jack offered us so kindly, be as fucking awesome as we are. Because if we're going to talk about growing new wings in consciousness, doing alchemy, doing that butterfly journey, transforming, embodying more of our higher selves, being that courageous, it's going to require a bigness. It's going to require a rootedness. It's going to require a self identity and a self concept and a relationship with self, that we fuck with ourselves through thick and thin, through the most minor whatevers, through the deepest like oh fuck moments. And I think in those oh fuck moments, like think about those oh fuck moments in relationship with people in your life. So much intimacy is built from that place, right? I think the same, we can speed right past the feeling and the intimacy, or we can like let turn up in our conviction to take such deep care of our sweetie selves. Especially, and I know this has been true for a couple of people I've spoken to this week, especially, it seems like there's a lot of chicken tender feels in the coven, a lot of things moving. And oh my gosh, I so relate to that. And I think that's also first sign in the zodiac, kind of like, we really truly are emerging. Like if you're in the Northern Hemisphere and catching this when it's live, this is the first full moon of the spring. So that's powerful. And then we're about to go into eclipse season. And if you're in the Blood, Bone, and Honey Pot, something that I'm now offering to Honey Tier, and just in general, some exciting news about the Blood, Bone, and Honey Pot membership is I'm now going to start a healing artist residency where I bring in a healing artist or a practitioner, teacher, coach, mentor from my network and my coven to offer a masterclass in the Blood, Bone, and Honey Pot around something that they are passionate about and just feel deeply inspired to share. And we're going to have my dear friend Megan Rising, astrologer Megan Rising, in the Blood, Bone, and Honey Pot for a spring healing artist residency. So she's going to be teaching a masterclass in the Blood, Bone, and Honey Pot in April, May, and June of this year. And then we're going to see where we go from there. And big shouts and deep bows to Kate. She is here in the comments right now. Kate, Alexis Loves, for consulting with me on this and just being in the Blood, Bone, and Honey Pot multiverse for so many years. Kate took my very first online course, Nourish Like a Goddess, back in 2018. And I just am so grateful for you, Kate. And we got to do some visioning around the next season of the Blood, Bone, and Honey Pot together, which has been a prayer of ours for many years now. So that was really great. And I'm just so grateful for that. I'm so grateful to just have all of these incredible humans and powerful people around me who I get to co-create with. We got Rebecca in the comments. Hey, queen. Rebecca too, Rebecca Hall. Rebecca, shout your handle for Instagram and I'll let the folks know. I can't remember it in this moment. But I want to let the people know who you are. So yeah, we got the coven. Cool shit is happening in the membership. I'm so excited. I sent out some updates this week. We're going to put all of our sacred movement practices that I've offered since September, including, well, these might have to live in a separate playlist, but we'll see, including the mind body centering yoga practices and some mind body centering chakra flows and restorative practices, and then some practices offered by my teacher, Nina. Those are all going to live in a sacred movement library and archive with the yoga dance flows that I've been offering since the fall as well. So we basically have like an online movement studio. And for a while, you're hearing it here first on the drip, I've gotten this hit around opening the sacred movement studio. And I know that the devotional dance coven is a thing that I'm supposed to, hold space for in the flesh, in person. And there's a couple of different spaces that are popping up around this, but I'm really feeling excited and inspired. And this Libra moon is really coming in strong too around building very specifically a sacred movement studio. And this is something that's living inside of the Blood, Bone, and Honey Pot membership right now. But I have a vision of having like a whole app and a whole space. And, I love doing all my tech witchery and setting all the things up, but I want to have a tech team and I want shit set up for me. Y'all can't imagine. If you wonder why I'm providing such good devotion, right? Like we do this shit. We do this shit as Creatrix, EO, Dragon Mother, leader, artists, creators, teachers, guides, whatever. Like this is what we say yes to. This is what we do. We show up. We do the work of 25,000 people, and then we magnetize in our team. Who's on the bottom of the deck here? Deep cellular healing. We were just talking about that rainbow light of the Libra full moon going like DNA deep. Deep cellular healing. We're going to pull some more cards around that. I'm going to weave that emerging from the chrysalis, because we did that on the alchemy transmission. Talked about the process of the chrysalis. So I want cellular healing process. And then I've got some prompts for us. We'll pull some cards. We'll see how we're flowing. Rebecca is sharing her handle here. It's at Rebecca Hall. Rebecca A. Hall. REBECCAAHALL. And then we got Kate Alexis Loves in the comments. KATEALEXISLOVES. And then Tumaris, Marissa, TOOMARIS. Tumaris. Wow, my little inner being who was like terrified to read out loud in middle school and would like turn and beat red is very proud that I can do things like that. And that's on healing a dysregulated nervous system through self-care as art and ancient practices and all kinds of multidimensional therapeutic models. So let's talk about the butterfly, shall we? Let's do it. For your emojis and your love. So the process of a butterfly emerging from its chrysalis is called eclosion. Eclosion is controlled by hormones. These hormones are released to soften the chrysalis and to trigger the central nervous system, beginning the movements needed to complete the emergence process. So there's stimulation happening. There's aliveness. There's a brewing. There's a goopiness. I want you to think about the sounds of the chrysalis, the feelings of the chrysalis, the colors of the chrysalis. Then I want you to feel this Libra full moon, this warm pink golden glow, which I also have visually here for you, just beaming in to activate your butterfly wings. And then think about the color. I wear blue tonight because my wings are really feeling like this color right now. What color are the wings? And see those wings and see that color inside of the chrysalis and recognize yourself as developed inside of a chrysalis, like that as a stage of metamorphosis too, like the pre-emergence process. Oh, hi, Kaylee. I know we've been meaning to connect. Send me a love note if you still want to connect. Sending you so much love. Also, I'll be in New York City mid-April. Also, for anyone else listening, I'll be in New York City mid-April. If you want to play Make Photo Magic, holler. Okay, we're talking about a butterfly and a chrysalis. Here we are. So if you look closely at a chrysalis, you can see where the eyes and the legs are beneath the hard surface. After the chrysalis has been softened and often become transparent, the butterfly will push through first with its legs, which, like, can we just talk about that for just some root chakra motherfucking, we got to stand on our legs magic to make shit happen? Oh, I just want to read it again. After the chrysalis has been softened, and often become transparent, the butterfly will push through first with its legs, also removing the triangular piece covering its eyes. The butterfly then crawls the rest of the way out of the chrysalis, exposing the abdomen and the wings. So we're going feet first. If you're standing up right now, or if you can put your feet on the ground, like, little somatic practice for us. Let's root our feet into the ground. I'm doing it even though I'm sitting on the floor right here. You can just close your eyes, and when you inhale, see some rainbow light coming up from the center of Mama Earth, all the way from her heart room, from her deepest loving space, from the deepest loving space you can connect to in the earth through affection and gratitude and just like, oh, thank you, Mommy Earth. Inhale and pull up some rainbow light through roots that are going to extend from the layers of the earth into your feet, and then move up through your veins and also through your energy channels. And then you can feel those roots connecting right at your actual root chakra. Let's use the pubic bone as our physical location of that space. And you can also draw your awareness all the way down to the base of the spine, the coccygeal plexus, like the very little tip of your reptilian intelligence, sea creature wildness. And just do a little exchange between the base of the spine and the pubic bone, and then down the legs into the feet, into the Mother Earth. Drink up that rainbow light again, and just give yourself a couple of exchanges and feel your feet on the earth as you do. And maybe as you breathe that light in, it makes you want to move. Maybe you start to feel the vortex of that energy, like the DNA, the blood, the information spiraling. And maybe it makes you want to move some energy as I share this next part. While you listen to the drip, be in your flow. Maybe you're tending to the temple. Maybe you want to move your body. Maybe as talking, you want to create some organic shapes. I'll give us some theatrical reading of this of this butterfly emerging transmission. Okay, right. So go back to the legs if you want to work with this. And even like I'm seeing some people like do some performance art to this and just like give themselves a little activation. Yeah, let me sip my water before I promise all this. Let's pull a texture for our reading, shall we? Oh, this moon is so playful. Also, don't forget to celebrate growth and breakthroughs. If there's some like, what more can I do? What more can I do? Don't worry about it. You're in the birth process. Emerging is a process. You're doing it. You're doing it. Right now, I just want to invite you to be in the pleasure of remembering that you are a multidimensional metamorphic creature who's not here to follow anyone else's blueprint or map, but the one that you have inside of you. Hey, dear Brittany. Girl, I got to call you. You're on the top of my list. Master the dance. Okay, this is going to be our texture for this. We're going to do a dramatic reading, Tyranny, of a butterfly emerging from a chrysalis. And I'm inviting anyone who feels like they want to move as I offer this to like move their body or write down things in their journal or pull cards or do whatever you want. Oh my gosh, a life aligned. Hi, queen. If you haven't followed a life aligned, get you some a life aligned on Instagram. There's this amazing menstrual PMS bleed cycle offering that's happening right now. Daria is a literal earth angel who I had the deep pleasure of working with in private mentorship. And we come from the same mind body centering yoga universe. So if you're looking to deepen in your yoga practice and your pranayama practice, I've been hearing you talk a lot about Chinese medicine, especially in these bleed offerings. Check it out. We've just been shouting out the coven tonight because that's what we do. Okay, so we're going to do this dramatic reading of the chrysalis, or of the butterfly emerging from the chrysalis. Are we ready? Hi, Anna. Oh, I love seeing everyone pop on. So fun. Okay. Love you, Daria. Freaking queen. I am so curious about that bleed offering. I keep meaning to contact you. We should talk about it too. I want to plan all the Instagram lives with everyone too. I'm just seeding this. I keep seeding things when I'm live just because This is the time I'm finding to do it. So I want to have folks come on and do little IG lives. And maybe we could also talk about a little healing artist residency in the Blood, Bone, and Honey Pot. That could be fun. I would love to bring in some bleed magic into that space. Okay, all the things. We love it. Let's talk about the chrysalis. Okay, so let's start over as we're mastering the dance. So here's the process of a butterfly emerging from its chrysalis. Are you ready to move, to breathe, to receive? Even if you're doing your dishes, here we go. The process of a butterfly emerging from its chrysalis is called eclosion. Eclosion is controlled by hormones. These hormones are released to soften the chrysalis and to trigger the central nervous system to begin the movements needed to complete the emergence process. The movements needed to complete the emergence process. The movements needed to complete the emergence process, the divine process of emerging. If you look closely at a chrysalis, you can see where the eyes and the legs are beneath the hard surface. After the chrysalis has been softened and often become transparent, the butterfly will push through first with its legs, also removing the triangular piece covering its eyes. The butterfly then crawls the rest of the way out of the chrysalis, exposing the abdomen and wings. What a vulnerable process. The butterfly then hangs upside down from the chrysalis or a nearby surface to complete the emergence process. The wings appear folded or crinkled, and the butterfly must begin the process of expanding and drying its wings before flight is possible. The butterfly must begin the process of expanding and drying its wings before flight is possible. The butterfly must begin the process of expanding and drying its wings before flight is possible. Meconium is pumped onto the venation structures of the wings by wing movement and the help of gravity. Once the wings have fully extended, will be pumped back by butterfly. The small amounts still in the veins of the wings will dry and harden, giving the wings a more sturdy structure that will allow flight. It can take anywhere from 30 minutes to 2 hours for a butterfly's wings to completely dry. This is usually varied according to size. After the wings have dried, but before the butterfly will take its first flight, it will dispel the excess meconium from its body. Meconium contains waste material from the chrysalis stage. So as you're working with those roots, maybe you drain energy from those rainbow roots, from your strong legs, from your feet into the mommy earth, and you say, hey, here's all of this meconium I don't need anymore because I'm a butterfly. Drain your meconium on this full moon. Flower nectar. That's the first stop. Let's read that again. A butterfly's very, very first stop. So it can be a butterfly after its wings are dry. So it's taking care of itself. Its wings are drying. It's not rushing. A butterfly's first stop after its wings are dry is usually to get some flower nectar. The use of the sugary nectar gives the butterflies energy and allows them to fly. So our self-care, our nectar, when we nourish ourselves, Libra full moon coming in to remind us of that which brings us pleasure and creates a balance in our very big, purposeful lives. Where is the balance of rest, pleasure coming in? Or alternatively, where is the balance of devotion, focus coming in? Where do we need both? Where can we not hold them against each other? Where can we let it all be a part of the patterning of our wings and our flight pattern? What if our flight pattern needs us to swoop down and then swoop up? How are you swooping all around the place right now? Where is your higher self calling you to fly? Can you see how you actually need to be all of you in order to meet the depth of this call right now. You can't only be part of you. And being all of you requires to care for all of you in your bigness. Like, no getting sick of ourselves is what I'm hearing. And if that comes up, that just means that there's a what? Recognition. And then a little bit of alchemy and emerging that needs to happen, just like the Creatrix codes have mapped out for us over these last few episodes. There's a recognition there of like, oh, this is no longer feeling good and resonating. That doesn't mean I'm out of alignment necessarily or on the wrong path necessarily. This might just be some information that I need to recognize so I can do my alchemy and emerge and drain that meconium and that information from the chrysalis that I didn't need, that caterpillar self that was ready to just transform. Butterflies on the ears for us tonight. So back to our dramatic reading. Sorry, the channel came through. I'm not sorry. We're not apologizing for things we're not sorry for anymore. Realigning our speech in the moment. That's some alchemy, yeah? All that apologizing, it's exhausting, and the body keeps the score and the record in the map. We got to drain that apology meconium somewhere. We might as well do it in the moment. Is that not the practice of alchemy? And I want you to know these Creatrix codes, recognize and alchemize to emerge. These can be applied in any moment. In any moment. We talked last episode about if you have 30 seconds to do a little recognition, alchemizing, and then emerging, that might support you in a tender conversation with someone that's feeling fiery and airy season. You can just grab onto that Creatrix code and be like, okay, what can I recognize right now? And then where's the potential for alchemy? How do I want to emerge from this? My dad was here earlier. I think this is something I say on almost every episode of The Drip and to myself every day. It's not how you meet what's happening. Or it's not what's happening. It's how you meet what's happening. And I've been saying a lot of like opposites tonight. And sometimes when like meaning to say something and it being the other thing. And sometimes when that's happening, what that will point me to in my own channel is like, it's coming through like that for a reason. And I do think that happens when we're channeling. And for anyone here who's psychic in a channel, we'll just trail off before we go back into our reading on a little psychic thread here. Like, pay attention to the way things are moving through your mouth. Like, the way something wants to be spoken is relevant. It has its own consciousness and agenda, especially when you're opening up to that channeled state. There's one of my favorite teachers offered me in a masterclass once, like, and I think that also taps us out of like the prefrontal cortex and the thinking brain and the processing and the logic, and it lets us be in a state of like not judging ourselves based on all of the old terms and agreements that we needed to meet in an old paradigm in order to be fill in the blank of your divine purpose. That's crumbling, and now we can sit behind some of that, and we can receive a transmission, and we can lead from our belly, and it can be from our body, and we can be resourced in all of our devotional study and certifications, and we can really be in our nervous system regulatory practices to befriend our front brain and get those frontal lobes firing in alignment with our amygdala and have a really positive experience in our brain and in our bodies. And then there's this spiritual piece of like, okay, and then what? And then what happens when you're in the moment and the rubber meets the road, and you have to meet what's in front of you in real time. My prayer is that you remember, even if it's just, I am a creatrix and I am a powerful creator, even if it's just the word recognize or just the word alchemize or just the word emerge, I hope that you call on that in a moment to support you, to resource you, to remind you of all of the options that you have, to, as these first cards offered us, to anchor into presence and then flow with divine timing, because something that being response able allows us to do versus in our reactive habitual pattern state is it actually also opens us up to more options on the timeline. And it opens us up to like more choices in any given moment to create what we want to what we want to create. And I know that sounds simple, but think about that moment of activation in your nervous system. Maybe something happened recently, just a moment of feeling either activated, hyperactive, or shut down. Because we could either be in hyper or hypo arousal on both ends of the spectrum. And maybe there's some swinging back and forth. I know for myself and my own complex trauma patterns, I'm a swinger. I can go hyper or hypo. And in some pathological model, it could be called all kinds of things that I will not even name because that's not my medicine. And I appreciate it, but I'm just too big of a dragon for that. So as we're reclaiming our sovereignty over our mind, body, heart, spirit connection, the identity of being a creatrix, of being powerful healers, whether it be for communities or just for our own bodies, there's this there's this gift that's wanting to be offered around. Let yourself in every moment really know in your being that you're choosing timelines and you're creating timelines actively. You are creating timelines. That you create timelines. You're not just aligning with highest timelines. You're fucking on the front lines creating a fucking timeline. That is a perspective in consciousness. It's super liberating. It's super freedom centered. It's super justice centered. Very Libra in essence. Our Instagram live transmission dropped out because I think it's cutting us off at an hour now, which is honestly good timekeeping for me. But I'm gonna just go live again. Oh yes, one of my girls was sharing a reel at the top. Okay. Let's give our little butterfly wings as we do. We're going to go live. Yes. Oh, I love that more people hopped on YouTube. Though, hun. So our dramatic reading, shall we? Thank you for tangenting with me. There's something I also love about the Blood, Bone, and Honey Pot Coven space. I keep calling this the Blood, Bone, and Honey Pot, but that is the name of the membership. What I love about this Blood, Bone, and Honey space is that there's so many brilliant, minded, and multi-galactically gifted folks in this coven that like we don't mind shooting off on all the places. Oh my gosh, hi Grace. Hey Kate. Okay. We're going back to we were in a dramatic reading of the butterfly for the folks on IG. And now we're talking about when the butterfly comes out. So if you want to be back in your movement, journaling, card pulling, whatever, we're coming back to it. So a butterfly's first stop after its wings are dry, receive this, priestess, magical being. A butterfly's first stop after its wings are dry is usually to get some flower nectar, as we do get our nectar. The use of the sugary nectar gives the butterflies energy and allows them to fly. So stocking up on flowers is going to be a great idea. I would ask you, my darling, what are your flowers? What's your nectar right now? What's keeping you fueled? Do you have it written out on a cute little page in your journal and then taped up next to your bathroom mirror so that you remember in the moments of feeling in hyper or hypo arousal and forgetting that you're a powerful creator, as we all do? What are your agreements around nectar right now with yourself? We're going to go into some prompts around this too. Butterflies and plants have co-evolved over time and depend on each other for survival. Flowering plants provide butterflies with food and shelter. Butterflies lay their eggs on the underside of leaves. Caterpillars eat the foliage. Leaves provide camouflage and protection for butterflies during the pupal stage. And butterflies drink nectar and sometimes pollen from flowers. In return, butterflies help flowering plants to reproduce through pollination. Deep reciprocity relationship that we're being invited to remember. When a butterfly lands on a flower, drink nectar, the flower's pollen becomes attached. And as the butterfly moves from flower to flower, drinking more nectar, the pollen is transferred. Each species of butterfly has a particular host plant and nectar plant, the former being the plant on which it lays its eggs and caterpillars eat, and the latter being the plant from which butterflies drink nectar. This is why it is extremely important to conserve the native biodiversity of each ecosystem. If a butterfly species loses either its host or nectar plant, it can no longer survive, and vice versa. So let's think about our butterfly friends as mirrors for our own multidimensional nature, for our own creatrixhood, creatorhood identity. How and where is that nectar coming from? What's your reciprocitous relationship of exchange? As you're drinking in the nectar, what's your plan for pollination? Because there also can be like a feeling. I pulled the give birth card, like a too pregnant feeling that can happen. And that doesn't necessarily mean like give birth this moment. It just means be present with that sensation of a divine prompting to push. Know that it's happening in divine timing. And at this moment, I just want to come into this part of my creatrixhood definition, or just offering around the creatrix archetype, which is you are a fertile vessel, ripe for creating and birthing selves, businesses, babies, books, whatever you desire. It's the same energy. And we've been talking about this on the last couple episodes of The Drip, so tune into that for more. But it requires us to phase one of the Creatrix codes, recognize that about ourselves, recognize that power in order to start working with it, in order to say, actually, I am worthy of fucking with my magic at deeper levels of authority and agency, authority, authorship, authoring. The Creatrix authors it. They don't just get off on the like idea that they're magical. They take it into practice and they work and wield that magic to pollinate and make shit happen on the planet. Light worker, and like reclaiming work from a sovereign definition and perspective of that word. Like work as devotion, work as the stuff that like has your soul feeling like it really did the thing when you lay down to go to bed at night. Like, yeah, I really fucking showed up for myself. But not getting too sticky around it. I'm already feeling like I'm seeing like gusts of wind blow in, like not getting too sticky around that also. Due dates are a myth. There's quite a few transmissions that are probably like maybe 6 or 7 back in the playlist now around higher self rebirth and birth and rebirthing ourselves. That would be great to listen to in tandem to this Creatrix Codes series, because we talked a lot about the metaphor of birth and use that as a higher self permission slip to get real with it. And to also, I'm hearing very specifically, document our birth process, like kind of like demystify, destigmatize the creative process, the birth process. I know that there's quite a few people going into some launches right now around some things that have been gestating for some time. There's also been this energy of like reviewing the drawing board and going back to things. And if you're in that mode right now, guide with a loose and gentle but like firmly supportive hand is what I'm hearing. There is especially, and I've been feeling this so specifically today, there's this need, especially right now, to not future trip too far out because so much is changing rapidly. And to just be available to making drafts and then coming back for another round, 9:09 on the time, 1:01 on the time on YouTube. Like, reclaiming that. And I think maybe in, I'm just receiving this in this moment, like maybe in the fast-paced culture of like reels and social media and whatever, and we already had that fast rhythm inside of our being since I would say at least since the rise of the advertising industry and this like urgency around consumption and creation, and like maybe even industrial revolution in terms of like an ability for things to happen faster. And I know that there's the new like um AI chatbot. I'm forgetting the name of it. Not it's That's like even insulting to call it that. It's called something specific. My friend Jacob, who told me about it, would be so annoyed that I just called it that. But there's all kinds of new artificial intelligence happening. And I think the point I'm trying to make is, in any moment where technology is having an ascension, there's a change in our time and our perception and our proprioception, and our connection to the network. And I think we can use that, you know, chrysalis, butterfly, flower, pollinator metaphor that we were just in, to like really sense how interconnected everything is. And so if there's advancements happening in technology, even if we're not directly engaging with that, like in the quantum field, it is affecting us and it will touch us. And I think there's also this need to be in a consciousness at this time on the planet where we are not separate. We are deeply interconnected. There is there is no way to even block it off or cut it off. Even if you are someone who likes to practice cord cutting ceremonies, or you have a practice of sacred boundaries, there's still an energetic exchange of information happening in the field. I think what cord cutting can do is it can like release the charge from a certain timeline or energetic dynamic of relating, so that there can be new ways of relating. But even if there's a sacred boundary with no communication, there can be a texture of peace, or there can be a texture of inflammation there, and you don't need the other person to decide what that is. You can just be in your alchemy practice around like peace and forgiveness and compassion, and it doesn't have to go beyond the energetic practice in order for you to make an imprint in the quantum. And right now around relationship for this moon, because we also have the scale and balance, right? Like it takes two to tango in all of our dynamics that we're in. And I was hearing not Pam Gregory, but another astrologer I listened to on YouTube. I'm forgetting the name of their channel in this moment, but they were talking about like in relationship um choosing to operate from Venus energy, or choosing to operate from Mars energy. And neither of those things being right or wrong, but just being discerning in when it's the right time to go Venus and when is the right time to go Mars. The creatrix doesn't need to perform a version of themselves in order to be evolved. Like there's no performing of being love and light for the creatrix. Like they're beyond that in their self-concept and identity. Um there is a there's a there's a claiming of, I'm going to do what I need to do in order to get this spell work done in alignment with my highest good and the highest good of all involved. And I know, even if it's in alignment with my highest good and the highest good of all involved, it's not always going to look talk so much about birth metaphor on the drip. Remember, normalize in our being what transformation looks like. I mean, it requires a shit ton of acceptance, right? I want to use this to go into our prompts for today because they're actually really, really powerful. So I just want to buzz through quickly. The Creatrix recognizes I'm spirit, energy, and consciousness. I'm having a human experience. I am divine by design as an infinite expression of source. I am a sovereign being and there is nothing I cannot do, be, or have. I am worthy of blessings, miracles, and divine support. To be a creatrix is to allow every aspect, every single aspect of life, she said, to be a profound experience. Sometimes I crack myself up in my notes. Every single aspect of life, you heard it here. To be a creatrix is to be relentlessly inspired without ceasing. To be a creatrix is to move the way that love would have you move. To know that experiencing in a moment is every single time an invitation to experience more of your unlimited, undiluted sovereign power and potential so that more of you can emerge. The Creatrix loves the dance of change. The Creatrix meets every block as a portal. The Creatrix sees each moment and each new experience through a fresh lens in consciousness, maybe also French though, because like Venusian and like fun and a little. I was feeling very French and feeling my French ancestors before hopping on today. The Creatrix sees each moment and each new experience through a fresh lens and consciousness. The Creatrix is solution oriented. The Creatrix moves the way that love tells them to move. Yes, Bracha Goldsmith on YouTube. Thank you, Rebecca. Thank you. Yes. So let's just anchor into this prompt first. I have revelation here. So whether you've been tuning into these drips around this series or not, maybe you're just catching us here for the first time. We have a bunch of people hopping on and off on Instagram and YouTube. So whoever's here, whoever's catching this in this moment, whether live or on the replay, how do you identify with the Creatrix? Or how could you adopt the Creatrix archetype and make it your own or apply it to your experience right now to turn you on, to light you up, especially if you're catching this with this Libra full moon, with that airy, just like support coming in, like all of that. Like I'm thinking of opening the flue on a wood fire stove to let air in to help the fire grow. Like everything in your life right now, wood on the fire. Aries season, it's already lit. Full moon, air is coming in. Divine support is coming in. How could your identity as a creatrix and then operating from that place support your emergence right now? Whatever emergence this full moon is calling, whatever emergence this moment in your life is calling you into, how does actually working from that creatrix archetype? So, and I'm hearing like, what would that give you permission to embody more of, very specifically, especially owning this, I can operate from Venus energy, pleasure, light touch, effervescent, ease, flow, or Mars, direct. Um, Sometimes like drawing a line in the sand, redirecting is a code we've been using on the drip. Accepting you are all of it, and that your sacred rage and your ability to stand up for yourself is what I'm hearing. And like really just um like from your perspective, we were talking about being the channel earlier. Tell it how it is based on how you're receiving it when it comes through, when you sit behind yourself. That was Stella Eisenstein, by the way, who offered that teaching to me. And she also offered that in terms of like, if you're giving healing to someone else, like and I've had my Reiki teachers say this too, like to sit behind yourself and just to let your hands be this vessel that energy is moving through. So anyways, how could identifying with that creatrix archetype and even maybe the archetype of like being a healing artist of your own life, being a divine creator, like your life as the canvas, 111 on our drip time, as I said that. So emerging is a tender process that requires patience, self-permission, self-acceptance, grace, and a certain amount of self-revelation, right? Like if you want to shine that light, then the initiatory passages of self-realization and revelation are part of it. You have to be willing to reveal the fullness of yourself to yourself and not which is what, we've talked about on the drip from time to time, and what some people refer to as shadow work, like this hiding of parts. Well, there's many different ways to define the shadow. We actually talked about the shadow in relationship to Carl Jung's teachings in the last episode, but let's just talk about the shadow on the drip today. And there's many multidimensional ancient definitions around the shadow, and I believe that we also all have a right to define that for ourselves, just like we can all define what the higher self is and what source is. So this is just how it's coming through for me in this moment to offer you. Let yourself taste all of the forbidden fruits of your personality and your identity and your expression. Let yourself taste all the forbidden fruits of your personality, of your expression, of your way of being in the world. Break all the rules as they've been mapped out, and see what happens, while also, and here's that Libra balance, like staying true to the things that nourish you and are your nectar. So it's like I'm seeing like the grip being loosened in certain areas, and like a rootedness happening in other areas, which then actually lets the wild meadow of you grow, because you feel safe. Then you're like, oh, I'm gonna wake up in the morning and have this time to be with my own heart, so this courageous move I'm making in my life isn't so scary anymore, because I know that I've carved out time to be with myself. Or even more of this moment to moment thing, like less even planning it out, more just like meeting your life from this Venusian consciousness, like moment to moment. Like, what do I need? How can I be? Even if you've made certain rules for yourself in the past, like we have to do it this way, or, oh, here's all the things that, like I said I was going to do. I'm just feeling old agreements being no longer relevant, and just giving yourself a freshness. Like this airy moon is coming in. It wants to offer revelation. It wants to offer freshness, because emerging is a tender process. This is the first full moon of the spring, if you're catching this live. And whenever you're catching this, I trust that your higher self has divinely guided you here. We got people tapping into our drips back from 2021 right now, which is so fun. If you're ever in there and listening, drop me a comment, because I love to see what's resonating over the years. So I have broken down this emergence process into 4 little points that I want to touch here. And then I have some prompts. I don't know if I'm going to touch all of the prompts on this drip card wise. I will offer all these prompts to the Blood, Bone, and Honey Pot membership. We're just going to see how long we go. I am about to bleed, so I'm going to honor my own nectar as well, and close the portal here when my body is saying it's time. But I want to share these 4 points with you around emerging. So here are 4 things that emerging in our visibility, emerging in our power, emerging with our big wings, emerging with our big mouths and our big throats and our big opinions and our big transmissions and our big ideas and our big dreams and our big butts. I mean, I don't know. We can just keep going. I really am building my booty right now. Shout out to my friend Daniel, who I saw on here earlier, who is helping me really just empower myself. So exciting. But here are the things for emerging. Are you ready? Here's the first one. For emerging is a tender process that requires patience, self-permission, and grace. Affirming and accepting. You have to affirm yourself for the metamorphic process that you've moved through in the first place. Your wings are the most tender and fragile when you emerge from the chrysalis. You have to treat them as such and accept that you're a butterfly now. It's going to take time to learn how to use your new wings. Think about, or rewind back to that part where we were talking about all the things happening in the chrysalis and that process of emerging. Remember, in the chrysalis itself, the caterpillar is digesting itself. So there's this affirming and accepting of like, yeah, I have been through a metamorphic process. Maybe you let yourself track your metamorphosis over the last 3 years. Potent time to reflect back on a 3-year cycle. Yeah. Where were you mid April of 2020? How has metamorphosis taken place like whoa since then? Have you taken time to accept and celebrate? Two cards we already pulled today. Have you taken time to accept and affirm that, like really like had a little celebration ceremony moment for yourself around that, told your friends, like blew it through a blowhorn, made some art about it, I don't know, marked it in some way? Have you marked your revelation in some way? Have you marked the territory of your metamorphosis? Have you accepted and affirmed, or are you on the hamster wheel of what next, what next? That's a timeline that you could choose. But what's the timeline that pops up that you create actively from a place of self-recognition, celebration, and acceptance of like, oh yeah, I just moved through this metamorphosis. I'm going to be a little tender. My wings might be a little wet. I know I'm going to need to find my nectar. I'm going to set myself up for that process and simultaneously be in this moment to moment, breath to breath availability of what's in front of me right now. Because that's the energetic, that feels like the energetic signature of the moment we're in. Like setting ourselves up and simultaneously holding, we don't really know what's going to happen next. And I feel like that's been coming up a lot on the drip because there's also a thing that's very real for survivors of complex. A survivor of complex trauma is going to want to know what's going to happen next. I think at this point we've all collectively been touched enough by trauma to just safely, and I feel comfortable as a practitioner saying, like, it's touched all of us. We've all been touched, especially in the last couple of years, in some way, in our mind, body, heart, psyche, soma, nervous system, very physical activations. Yeah, the last couple of years have brought. I don't even want to call them activations. Yeah, I don't want to call them activations. I want to call them initiations. They feel deeper than an activation. So I'm just going to drop one of the prompts here. What do you need to accept about the wings you've been growing, Creatrix? And what can you affirm about the wings that you've been growing? What can you accept and what can you affirm? I'm going to pull a card from the Divine Feminine Oracle. Okay, well, this is affirming that Mars energy I was talking about, Sekhmet, goddess of sacred rage, with the fire. When do I want to stick to the schedule that I made for myself? And when do I want to blow that up and do something different? Very moment to moment, very malleable, very alchemist consciousness, very creatrix consciousness. Like there's a reason I think that I've been guided to talk about this on the drip. There's this that front lines of like creating that highest timeline in real time. It requires a deep, radical presence and a deep, radical, beyond what makes logical sense, trust in divine timing. And a willingness to embody this Sekhmet-y power goddess. Not like, it's not that we don't care how it comes off. You're just, your attention is being redirected to what wants to move through your channel. Now I can feel this for psychics, for creatives, for hypersensitive, spongy light workers. There's this early programming around kind of tracking what's going to be acceptable and not acceptable in the space, almost like utilizing psychic gifts to survive hard situations. And so there's a reclaiming of our gifts and our capacity to make miracles and command magic in the moment, and also a reclaiming around this fierce texture that goes into that creator creatrix archetype. Like you got to love yourself to claim that you're an alchemist. And I don't mean like you have to, well, I do actually mean that. I do actually mean that you have to love yourself. I do actually mean that you have to love every part. And even if the ego is not on board with all of that, somewhere in your spiritual heart, you have to be able to scoop up all of the parts and the most innocent part and hold it, even if the ego and the mind are not fully on board yet. You can lead with the heart first. So accepting and affirming this ferocity that's come forward, and that you are just like the embodiment of pure strength, creator power. I honor my anger by giving voice to it. So if there's a throat shock or something that needs to come forward, you can let that be an activation. I knew Joan of Arc was going to come forward. I was about to say it feels a fierce, this fierceness feels very Joan of Arc in texture. It feels very on behalf of the light. It feels very on behalf of the of not not standing for the way things have unfolded in the past, not standing for old cycles repeating, whether it be in your life or watching them play out around you. There's a ferocity in being like, no more of this, of identifying the pattern and being like, yeah, no, it's not going to be that. Like a deep self-awareness, capitalizing, utilizing, harnessing, harvesting the deep self-awareness that you that or the depth, whatever depth of awareness up at this point. Use that. You know yourself better than anyone knows you, even if your ego is telling a story about that. You were born with you. There's an intimacy that's your birthright. Yeah, you can love all parts of yourself and still want to evolve 100%. And in fact, love is the necessary ingredient. And here's like the little like refined point of all of this. You need the love as a part of the alchemy. If the alchemy doesn't have love, it's going to look like a lot of self mutilation and picking yourself apart and wondering. And that still comes in anyways, because that's the realness of what happens in a healing process. You have to unlearn how to pick yourself apart, because we all get programmed to do that, because that is how our system functions. On people being disempowered and having to purchase their belonging and their status, and earning it and proving it. So be fierce about especially the parts that have historically kind of not been invited. Like, I am noticing as I'm um in a process of I really do feel like I'm emerging right now. I feel like I'm going through a huge emergence. And I feel like as that's happening, like there are even things that I would consider small that I'm just letting myself not make such a big deal. Like, sometimes my mind moves so fast. If you listen to the trip, you probably are like, yeah, we do a lot in these 2.5 hours sometimes. Um, and so sometimes I'll like literally trip over my words, like as a processing thing, which I'm always working on slowing down through the breath, but it's also a processing thing in my brain. Shout out to all my neurodivergent folks. And so like that's a historical part, always just a little underdeveloped. Like she needed to be scooped. Sometimes like pronunciation or reading things out loud. Like when I'm reading off of a screen, like the words would get jumbled for me as a kid. Granted, I was living through a lot of trauma at that time too. And I think it's very interesting to look at processing things in kids in relationship to trauma in the home and how all that unfolds. Because my brother also has a processing thing that he navigates. So anyways, I'm just bringing this part up because Inanna is a goddess of the underworld. She goes down in the underworld and then she actually leaves this like meat suit version of herself in the underworld and emerges as her integrated twin sister self known as the goddess Ereshkigal. But Inanna is heaven and earth because she can go down into the underworld and still shine her brightest light. So, that was my little example around a part of my being who feels kind of mushy gushy and like her wings are still wet, and showing up courageously on the drip and this like Joan of Arc essence, but also in this Mother Mary essence, this very like if I feel the presence of Mother Mary or just the Divine Mother, I'm like, she doesn't care if I trip over my times or go off on tangents. She just wants the transmission to get dropped. So I'm feeling like a gentleness getting revealed for the new earth creatrixes around the way that we offer. And also the way that this has just been coming up a lot with clients too, so I'll just speak it, like the way that we market, like making that a more enjoyable process, not leaving certain parts of ourselves out of that conversation. Like there can be, I just feel like I feel like I'm getting away with less self-abandonment, which feels like a sign of growth. But I feel like in general, here's that great severing card we've been talking about. I feel like this is happening. This feels like a collective activation just around, yeah, around a re-inspiration, a softening, a return to our original blueprint, our wing pattern, around how we each are individually as sovereign beings inspired to show up and share his mission, not the way someone else told us that we needed to. And here's this karmic relationships card. If there's relationships right now that are feeling especially activating, I just want to say, let them be that, and meet that with the consciousness of the Divine Mother, Mother Mary, Joan of Arc, and Sekhmet. And just like we were talking about, balancing that Venus and that Mars energy, balance the energy between the different expressions within yourself. Like in any moment, we could choose to respond infinite ways to whatever is in front of us, right? It's like, how do you want to make your art? How do you want to do your alchemy? These first two prompts, we're asking, what do you need to accept about the wings you've been growing? And what can you affirm about the wings you've been growing, Creatrix, in consciousness, in your expression? And so those were our affirming cards in terms of like these very three specific essences and consciousnesses of the divine feminine and of the goddess coming forward, that I'm just going to reseed here because this actually feels important, and actually four. First, we came through with this strength card, this Sekhmet, this Egyptian goddess of sacred rage and like, I want to say like heart womb conviction around like what is what is acceptable to you on a values level and what is not, and not hesitating to be in your power around that, and to like make moves, and to also, in this making of moves, in this direct, like this feels like the Mars energy of this. So does Joan of Arc. In this direct, courageous, vulnerable, I make moves consciousness, make sure you're checking in with all parts of the being to see how they're feeling in the process. And there might be an expression of self that you're invited to step into that feels new, unfamiliar. That's the new wings. Know that in that process, just like any newborn baby in consciousness, you have the support of your guides and inspired to bring forward. And that these are all developed, these are all parts of your consciousness that have been developing. This strength, this courage, this queenhood, empresshood, authority, self-acceptance, and then also this fierce gentleness. There's quite a few transmissions in our devotional drip archive from recently around being our own inner mother, and like caring for ourselves, getting that butterfly nectar, making that chrysalis, recognizing the compost, cooking in the cauldron. I see the incredible Mountain Mama guiding Jess here. I highly recommend following Jess on Instagram if you're on Instagram Live or watching this replay. She's mountain.mama.guiding. And I owe you a love note, Jess. I was just speaking that to Sarah. I'm going to send you a love note this week. I'm so glad you're here. So we're accepting that these aspects of our consciousness have been being nurtured. Our courage, our strength, our like that. I don't know. Listen to the Blood, Bone, and Honey Pot membership playlist this month if you want to know what train of this I've been on. It's like a very lit up Aries, like, oh, like I just want to make a sound for it kind of energy. So there's that. And then there's also that softness, that sweetness. We've been talking a lot about surrendering into softness and sweetness. So we are accepting and affirming. The next part of this for our emergence is committing and devoting. You've got new wings in consciousness. Now it's time to devote yourself to learning how to use them. In your commitment to your metamorphosis and devotion to your new wings, you're going to have to learn how to ride these new wind currents. And patience is going to be key. New wings equals new agreements. So, what new agreements do you need to make with yourself on behalf of these new wings in consciousness that you've been growing? Is there some updating between you and you, some sacred contracts between you and you that want to happen? Two prompts that I have here that I'll pull some cards around are: what do you need to commit and devote yourself to support your new growth? And then what do you sense is an important decision for you right now? We're committing, we're devoting. Actually, let's hold off that are next. I feel like that's a little too much for one. So let's just do: what do you need to commit and devote yourself to support your new growth? Who do we want? I'm feeling this Magdalene deck again. What do you need to commit and devote yourself to support your new growth? What could this collective bring the currency of their consciousness to? Here she is again. Wow. Okay, 3 cards here. Mother Mary again. And I've got this blue on today. This blue has come through so many times this week too. So we have Mother Mary, perception, and internal embrace of the saint sinner. What do you need to commit and devote yourself to support your new growth? I'm getting a fierce gentleness, like this internal embrace card of the saint sinner. Like there is a very specifically, I'm getting like bedtime rise time ritual. We have the real you and the God card right here. Like, what allows you to reveal yourself to yourself? What allows you to like really get in touch with the growth that you have arrived at? What gives you the space to taste your own like nectar, energy, like, oh yeah, those are the things I love and those are the things that nourish me. I'm feeling like a structuring of your day around nectar. Like create the container around nectar. Today I actually found very specifically with this Libra moon, like making myself some really like lavish meals and like stopping everything to eat, which I do try to do, but sometimes I'm scrolling or whatever, answering an email because that's just how the day flows. But today I really had this intention to like be present with my food, sit outside. It's finally nice enough here to be outside while eating. And there was a different experience of nourishment. And I mean, there's studies that have been and processing that that's what's happening versus on your phone or tapped into something else, like the body's actually more deeply nourished and satiated. And I think this too is happening as like there's this new AI technology development all over the place. There's this question around what's real, and making yourself real and making your life real and feeling the real feelings of self-love in your body and feeling like calling in a benevolent, loving presence into your heart or to surround you or both, and letting yourself feel the presence of love and trusting that it's real. There's a sensitivity. What do you need to commit and devote yourself to support the sensitivity of this new growth? I want to pull from my Faceted Earth deck too, just for some specific Earth-based messages around this. as we go through this passageway of birth, there are all kinds of beings and creatures that want to support you. Look for the signs. This will be one of the things that we actually talk about point where, but look for the signs. Trust the synchronicities. We're about to get into decisions too. When you're making decisions, literally, the decision card is just up on the deck, and it's also this blue color that's coming through. As you're making decisions, maybe we don't even need to be in the other prompts. I'm going to drop all of the prompts on Discord and I'll read them out, but I'm just feeling like we don't even need to pull for all of these. I feel like we're almost coming to the end of our transmission here. But I want to translate this because it feels like just a big message coming through. So as this birth is happening, there is a passage, there's a portal. Everyone's going to get rinsed and baptized. We're already in this. We've been in this. But there's more of a push right now. There's a supportive push, not an intrusive push. There's a supportive push. And I think the eclipses are almost I'm seeing like a spin cycle, like wringing out all the wetness, and maybe that's like the wet wings, getting dried out in the sun. There's a trust the push, trust water, trust the gushingness. It's watering the seeds. It's watering your prayers. It's watering your dreams. I have seed, passage, scarecrow, animal allies, and birth here. And even the way that the cards are like coming out, I'm always paying attention to that. Like they're kind of in this accordion like state. There's awareness that's happening for you. You're not alone in this birth process. I'm quite literally a higher self embodiment doula talking to you right now, so you're literally not alone right now. But also just let yourself call in, and I've been talking a lot about this with my clients this week too, your circle of support with more ferocity. More like, I deserve this support. Like, yeah, I'm calling in the angels. Yeah, I'm calling in my wise and well-heeled ancestors. Yeah, I'm looking for the signs. Because the last two parts of this, just to close this portal, is sensing and deciding that you can fly, that new perspectives are actually available for you now. As you sense and decide where to go and how to let go, and let compassion and your courageous, compassionate heart actually be the compass. Consistent self-compassion, that Inanna card, that saint sinner, that mother maternal embrace. I'm just maternal embrace because this feels like the one up on YouTube right now. That consistent self-compassion breeds self-trust and confidence in your ability to fly as a result of that self-trust. The last piece of this for emerging is drinking our nectar and watching for signs. Drinking your daily nectar in the form of radical self-care and self-love following your emergence is a non-negotiable. Like the bigger you become, the more time you're actually going to need to just chill and rest. That is something that I'm realizing I continue to ascend in my leadership. It's like I actually need more time now than I used to digest and process following a transmission. I actually need more spaciousness and more fluidity in my days than I used to, because I'm bigger now, because I just require more space, time, space to spread my wings. So let that be a mirror onto where you're being invited to let yourself be a little more fluid and spacious and less calculated in your ascension process. Drinking your daily nectar in the form of radical self-care and self-love following is a non-negotiable. Drink your nectar so that you can pollinate. Butterflies must bask in the sun. While you're flying, look out for signs from your higher self, your guides, and the multiverse, all of your ancestors. Everything in physical reality is fair game for a sign, is fair game for your higher self to point to say, hey, look this way. I didn't hold that I'm going to put in our membership Discord is, what do you sense is an important decision for you right now? What is your non-negotiable nectar? Where and how are you being called into more visibility? And what are you pollinating as a new earth creatrix? I am feeling very called to ask this question as our portal closer. Where and how are you being called into more visibility? Let's go there. Let's do the Starseed deck. So interesting. I'm seeing like a bunch of circles pop up and like a bunch of different people like with a spotlight on them, like shining in their spotlight. Hi, Kat. Oh, thank you for the lightning bolt heart clap, Kate. Where are these earth angels being called into more visibility? Specifically, I see the spotlight spirit. How can they step into that spotlight with ease and devotion and like in a way that their soul is hungry for, in a way that they said yes to already? Because yes ease, but also there's something that only comes from the sweat, the push, the I don't know if I think I can, and then actually doing it and teaching yourself something new through action. Like that's my little strength training. Look at these muscles I'm growing. That's my little strength training activation right now. Y'all, I could barely do a push-up like years ago. I'm still on like a very slow push-ups right now. One of my exercises is lowering myself as slowly to the ground as I can before I like barely can hover, and just creating a pause, a mind body like circuit in that space of you're strong enough. And I know eventually I'll be able to like hover in that space and then push back up. And that's a metaphor, right? And we have to actually fall. We have to actually wobble around in order for that stability and strength to be created. So let's see what's coming through in response to how you're being called into more visibility. Water your garden, nourishment, body care, tenderness, and rest. And you've got the love. Codependency and boundaries is what it says in the little description. Let's see what's coming through for us for these. You got it like that. You already got it like that. I want you to know how original and unique you are already. You already got it like that. If you need to listen to some like J-Lo or some kind of like maybe some Madonna, maybe some like I've been listening to Liz Phair nonstop. Exile in Guyville has been like my prayer album for 2 weeks. I definitely put some energy like that on the Blood, Bone, and Honey Pop playlist this month. Like I'm just getting like tapping into I got it like that, like queen energy, like Sekhmet with a crown. Sekhmet with a crown and a Mother Mary like flavor. Sekhmet with a crown who just returned from the underworld, dripped in jewels and new activations and consciousness. Butterfly dragons with iridescent wings lighting up the whole space. You already have it like that. So you're the vessel for all the prayers to pour through. Now the most important part is to make sure that you're taking care of the main instrument. Something that I really carried from I grew up in musical theater dance world, and something that I really carried from my early training in the theater is like you like when you're an actor, when you're a dancer, like your body is the vessel. That also goes, I think, for any healer, creator, teacher, leader. Like we are, we can't, if this mind body connection ain't functioning and firing off, if we're not taking care of our, if we're not eating and sleeping, like the most basics of self-care. I've been eating so much sleep, and really to have a good little bedtime ritual, which is why we're going to close this portal just before, well, we're going to We're going to close this portal when she's ready to close. We're getting ready to close her. Having that bedtime and morning time ritual has allowed me to actually tap into my subconscious mind with more agency and work with the parts that need the nourishment. It's so easy to say, "Oh, I'm just going to write that email first," or "I'm just going to, whatever." When we actually tend to ourselves first thing, even if it's just 5 minutes in bed in the morning, in a little prayerful practice, every other place that we every other relationship that we water is going to come from that place. This codependency and boundaries piece, I want to say, like, where are you looking outside of yourself for your garden to get watered? Not that we can't water each other's garden, and I love to bring buckets of water to all the gardens and just like let my little sprout go off, and we talk about this all the time on the drip. There's a certain thirst within you that only your own self-attention can reach. And a reoccurring little phrase on the drip over the last couple of years has been, "Are you thirsty for your own self attention?" If you give yourself attention at the level of thirst, showing up to lead, to make money, to take care of whatever you got to take care of, hard conversations, big initiations in your life, when you water your garden, all of the stuff that gets you fragmented and spaced out or makes you want to go into an activated historically territory that has felt really uncomfortable for you, there's a reorientation that happens because you're like, oh, like I may be scared to do this. I may have resistance. This thing may be bringing up uncomfortable feelings for me. And I'm going to do the radical thing of not pointing my finger outside of myself at all. And I'm going to draw that gaze so deeply inward. And I'm going to see, where can I hold and water myself where I'm not being held and watered, where it actually isn't anyone else's responsibility to do that for me. Because then the tea and the offerings and all of that love that you receive in your relationships, it's going to feel that much better. I've already decided when I've gotten on for the devotional drip, whether I had people in the comments being like, "This fucking sucks," or "I fucking love this," that I love me. And that's been so important for like eating troll energy. And with trolls, whether they be on the internet in your real life, a nice little way to approach trolling ass, trifling ass energy trying to fuck with your flow, just calling it a little bit of Sekhmet and Mars energy with this one, is to give them the password. Because trolls are always like, "What's the password? Give me the key," or you can distract them with a little something. And the password every time is going to be your self-love and you choosing yourself, you accepting yourself every time. I'm just seeing like flashes of myself crying over like hate mail or some like shit I've received like way back in the day. I actually have been thinking about doing a dramatic reading of some of the most like, actually, there's one letter specifically that I received in response. This was like early Blood, Bone, and Honey to like some of my thesis work and breastfeeding photos I was sharing at the time. And I've been thinking about doing a dramatic reading of it just for fun on YouTube or Instagram, and just like bringing some of that in and making art from the mud, right? Like making art from the chrysalis, making beauty from the slop, bringing visibility to parts of the garden that want to get watered. We have Sweetie Pie Cat here saying, "Yes, I've been jamming hard to a song about becoming the own girl of my dreams." Right, though? I've really been loving, wait, I forget the title of the song. I want to point to it on the playlist. Okay, it's by Slater and it's called Daddy as Fuck. AF. It's on the Blood, Bone, and Honey Pop playlist. I've just been really loving that song so much when I'm in my like, I gotta make stuff happen flow. I'm like, I can be my own daddy, you know? And I do feel like that's an energy of the Creatrix. Like, she's like, or they're like, I'm just going to hold it down for myself because I've got it like that. You've got the love. We've got it like that. Okay, I never want to get off the drip, but it is exactly 10 o'clock, which is my bedtime and my time to turn off electronics. So I'm feeling like we're going to end with one more card pull. Can you feel my inner child alive on this full moon? I just want one more. I just want one more. I just want one more for this last prompt. What are you pollinating as a new earth creatrix, and how can you move? See me breaking the rules. I'm like, it's my bedtime, break the rules. and to love every part of the expression through that. Make mistakes. This card comes out every drip. Oh my God, we need this so bad. And offer. Let your mistakes be an offering. What are you pollinating as a new earth creatrix? Go back to the last episode because we talked all about like improvising and being a channel and moving as you go, and like the mistakes actually being like the most powerful parts of all of it. Like whether it be something you're creating or you think you fucked up in a relationship dynamic with a person or a conversation or a something, I would get kicked off in the moment that I am giving this the last part of this transmission. Hold on, get on Instagram Live. Here we go. Just like permission to get going, to let it be messy, to do the thing. I mean, make mistakes and offer in response to what are you pollinating as a new earth creatrix. We just get to go. We just get to press go. We just get to improvise. I just get to get on Instagram Live in the devotional drip and I just get to talk to you. What? That's a fucking amazing. I haven't talked to Kat in such a long time. What a gift. We did an epic boudoir shoot at my Sunnyside apartment in Queens a couple years ago. It was so good. Kat, if you want to come do, or anyone who wants to come do an epic ceremony this spring or summer in the Finger Lakes region, let's jump in a waterfall. And this is actually my new like boudoir studio space. In our home called the Emerald, and we also have a sauna in the basement. So if you want to follow it up with a little sauna, we could do that. But we have some like big ass windows. And if we were to buy this house, I would immediately remove those and put in new glass and make skylights. Sorry, you can't see it on YouTube. I'll show you the window. I feel like I've shown y'all the window before, but oh my gosh. I'm like holding the camera up. There's the window. Wait, oh my gosh. I'm like having to hold this tiny little camera. All right. I should have just, wait, that's that window. We're going to figure it out. Oh, we got it. Yeah, there we go. That big ass window. Okay, there's the skylights that I would put some glass in. Hello, there I am. Okay. Look at me procrastinating getting off the drip. I really do love this work. So make mistakes. Look in the mirror every day and tell yourself that you are powerful, beautiful, and capable. A reoccurring theme that's also been coming through is like looking in the mirror with self-touch, looking in the mirror while dancing, and just being in this very Aries I am identity flow energy. Like I am the I am that I am. Looking in the mirror and letting yourself be the offering. You are the offering. I think that's what I want to say as our closing portal on this emergence Libra full moon spiralic journey that we just went on. You are the offering. So if it comes from you, then it's nectar. It's pollen for the never trust me when I say more. I just language. We don't even talk like that in the new earth. Last one, you're safe to fall. I mean, if it hasn't been affirmed enough, you're safe to fall. You're safe to make mistakes. You're safe to just get it started. You're safe to lead with a firm hand and then also completely soften. You're safe to be all the things now. You are the offering. It's time to emerge as this version of ourselves. Marissa, I just pulled the safe to fall card, affirmed from the Wild Kuan Yin deck that you gifted me. Like this is what it is. Every day we're waking up and we're like, all right, I'm going to fall into the lap of divine love. Let's see what we can make happen from here. All right, how would love have me move today? All right. I did have all these things on my agenda, but I'm willing to be divinely redirected and rearranged because I'm safe to fall. And I got a guardian angel at my back, and nothing is against me. It's all for me. That's the creatrix. Okay, I really am gonna go to bed and go kiss my husband and probably go eat some peanut butter on a spoon with chocolate and hopefully start bleeding tonight. These cramps are. Also, just a moment for the fit on YouTube. I mean, you can kind of see it on Instagram too, but it's electric blue on YouTube. Got some blue pants and also this blue shirt. And the butterfly earrings. I took off my pendant, but she was hanging out earlier. I gotta find a new chain for her. Creatrixes, Earth Angels, thank you for being here. If you're curious about our secret higher self spring awakening menu, I've got some readings and sessions and intensive containers and private mentorship containers and photo offerings available at promo prices for the spring. I was going to close the portal on that today, but I actually got the hit to keep it open until the total solar eclipse in Aries, which is going to happen this month. So we're gonna close the portal on that mid-month, but I've just still got so many of you in my DMs and we haven't quite landed it yet that I'm gonna keep that portal open. So if you want that menu, let me know. It's a cute little Google Doc that I'll send your way, and these prices are not available on my website, so you have to DM me in order to access. And yeah, there's some like huge savings for some of the packages. We've got a brand new cohort dripping in. It's really delicious. It's been so fun to receive deposits and angel numbers too. I love that. My inner child goes wild. Oh, my dad was here the whole time. Thank you for the love. And we're going to keep it clean with a 2-hour exactly transmission here on the Devotional Drip. Thank you for joining. Send me a DM, Higher Self Spring Awakening, for that secret menu. Patreon.com/bloodbone and honey for our membership. We have astrologer Megan Rising coming in for a 3-month healing artist residency. She's going to be teaching a Embody Your Astrology masterclass on Moon Day, April 17th, I believe. That date is in the Discord for members. I also sent out a Patreon notice, and Honey tier members are invited to those monthly master classes. So that's going to be our new offering for the Honey tier. You can check out the different tiers of the membership on patreon.com. And thank you for your support and your presence and your love. It's an honor to walk with you. I freaking love the Devotional Drip so much. And I love connecting with you weekly. And I hope that you enjoy the other videos in this Higher Self Spring Awakening series. Episode 44 has 2 parts. And then episode 45 was our alchemy transmission. And then this is our emergence transmission. And we're going to just keep rolling into our Spring Awakening series next week. Like I said, we're going to start a new journey with the 7 pillars of higher self embodiment coming up in a couple of weeks. I'm going to give us some priming for that as we move towards it. And it's just going to be a really juicy, prosperous spring. So reach out to me, send me a love note if you want support. And in the meantime, sending you so much love and happy full moon if you're catching this when it's live. And I will see you next time. Always so hard to say goodbye, but here we are. I'm going to say bye on YouTube first. Goodbye, Earth Angels. Until next time.